As you've developed your career into freelance writing, particularly about wine, has TEXSOM been a place that has helped you develop that?
100%. Again, it's the access to people. It's the connecting with people. Some of the seminars have come out of it with story ideas, and I've actually pitched stories based on topics and conversations that we've discussed. It's great to also see people who are doing things in the wine world other than what we do, because we can get very stuck into our little worlds and communicate with the same people all the time. As I said, I'm based in New York, and we always talk about the New York bubble. So New York, in terms of being a place for wine, is truly one of the most exciting places in the country, for sure. We get everything first. So many trends come to us first. But on the other side of that, we're in our New York bubble. So what I think is interesting, a lot of stuff has not necessarily reached other parts of the country, or that's not what's really reflective of the broader state of the wine industry in our country. And so this helps ground me in that way, where I can really truly get a sense of what else is happening out there in the world.
Ciao, y'all. I'm Jessica Dupuy, guest host for a special TEXSOM series on the Italian Wine Podcast, covering the 2025 TEXSOM Conference in Dallas, Texas. Join me in the heart of the Lone Star State as we dive into conversations with key speakers and attendees, exploring career paths, challenges, and the latest trends shaping the wine industry today. This series is proudly sponsored by the Texas Department of Agriculture's Uncorked Texas Wines program, which celebrates Texas wine culture by promoting local wineries and grape growers, both in-state and around the world, building a vibrant community around the Texas-made wine. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show wherever you get your podcasts. And don't miss our Texas Wine Tidbit in every episode, a fun little fact, insight, or story that highlights the people and places behind this exciting wine scene. All right, Shana Clarke, thank you so much for joining us on the Italian Wine Podcast. We are in the thick of TEXSOM.
We are in it. We are so deep into this. Yes.
Like all these people are running around like tasting wines like at the expo break.
Yep.
We just got out of a 9 a.m. session. So basically, as soon as that ends, people start running around with wine glasses and tasting wine until the next session starts. So thanks for joining me, because we could be doing that right now.
We could be, but we are here. And you know what? I get to hang out with you and chat with you. And that is very exciting to me.
And also sitting this close to each other.
I know. We're so cozy.
We're so cozy. So there's a reason I wanted to bring you on. Well, or there's a lot of reasons. But first of all, maybe you could give everybody just a little bit of a background on who you are, what you do in the wine industry, and then we'll kind of start talking about TEXSOM after that.
Sure. That sounds great. So for those who I have not met yet over the telecast, I'm Shana Clarke. I'm a journalist. I focus on wine, sake, and travel. So I'm freelance as part of what I do, pitching articles to editors, publishing. I also do a lot of content work for clients, wine companies, wineries, helping with various needs such as website copy, brochures, vintage release notes, anything like that. So it's, wear a lot of different hats, do lots of different things as we all do in the freelance world, but I love it and very focused on things that I love to talk about, which is wine, sake, and travel.
Yeah. That's the thing too. Like I try to remind myself, and my parents are really good at doing this, or like, you've carved out a niche where it's like, this is what you get to do. You get up in the morning and this is what we do every day. It's hard.
Yeah.
But it's enjoyable. We're at TEXSOM. I was just thinking about it before we kind of started recording. This is where we met, right? This was 10 years ago, or how long ago?
I think it's been like 9 years or something like that. Yeah.
And I remember that's when you were just kind of transitioning to doing more writing and everything else in the industry.
Correct.
So I wonder if you could just tell me kind of what brought you to TEXSOM. Like, how did you even discover it? If you're based in New York.
I'm based in New York, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So my husband, Jim Clarke, he's been very involved with TEXSOM for years. He does multiple things. He's sponsors, he's a speaker on different panels. And so when we got together, he brought me along and I got to experience TEXSOM for the first time. And ever since then, my relationship with TEXSOM has grown, and I do various things now, as we can discuss a little bit later. But that's what really brought me into the fold. And every year it's something I look forward to doing. It's a great way to reconnect with people, meet new people, but we're all very busy. And so when you have this opportunity to ground yourself and spend a concentrated amount of time with people that are in your industry and doing things that you love, it's really invigorating and really exciting.
I like that you say invigorating, because I do feel like that's sort of a key word here. Like we all kind of work, we're all busy, whether you're in freelance writing or sales or importing or whatever it is for the people that are coming here. And you get stuck in your little bubble sometimes, just doing what you do every day.
100%.
And I feel like one of the benefits to this conference is we all get to reconnect and remember why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And that there are so many people in our community. We just happen to work in all different parts of the world, and then we get to come back together. I'm curious if you could say, so like, for instance, you mentioned you came here, like your first year was probably as an attendee.
Yes.
And then you've volunteered on the media team, kind of helping do all the behind the scenes stuff for TEXSOM's media group.
Yep.
But then also we've been co-speakers.
Speakers, yes.
Actually, yeah. If you could kind of tell me about that, as you've developed your career into freelance writing, particularly about wine, has TEXSOM been a place that has helped you develop that?
100%.
Okay.
One, because again, it's the access to people, it's the connecting with people. Some of the seminars have come out of it with story ideas, and I've actually pitched stories based on topics and conversations that we've discussed. It's great to also see people who are doing things in the wine world other than what we do, because we can get very stuck into our little worlds and communicate with the same people all the time.
Yeah.
But I get so excited when I see sommeliers, retailers, when I get to hear their perspectives and sort of understand the challenges that they're facing or the things that really excite them.
Yeah.
I think that that's always really helpful.
Yeah.
But again, it's really just this connection with everybody. As I said, I'm based in New York, and we always talk about the New York bubble. So New York, in terms of being a place for wine, is truly one of the most exciting places in the country, for sure. We get everything first. So many trends come to us first. So we see so much. And if you want to drink great wine, like, New York is the place to be. But on the other side of that, we're in our New York bubble. So what I think is interesting, a lot of stuff has not necessarily reached other parts of the country, or that's not what's really reflective of the broader state of the wine industry in our country.
Yeah.
And so this helps ground me in that way, where I can really truly get a sense of what else is happening out there in the world.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I actually interviewed Stephen McDonald, who's a master sommelier with Pappas Brothers Steakhouse, talking about how New York, living in Texas, we're always like, okay, yeah, New York, they get all the best wines. It's New York. It's, the city that never sleeps. But at the same time, breaking out of that bubble, like you say, there's a lot going on here in Texas in terms of wine trade, in terms of wine interest, and in terms of consumers who are deeply connected to the wine world.
Yeah.
And so I love that we actually get to see, the Texans, get to see people coming from other places to celebrate that, but also to learn. And I think that, personally for me as a journalist, I'm the same way. Like, this is a place where not only do I get like story ideas, but I literally start a list on my phone where I'm like, okay, follow up with this person, oh my gosh, I need to talk to him about the wine shop he just opened and how is that going? That kind of thing. Maybe that's a story, things like that. To me, it's nice to be able to get multiple different story ideas from multiple different angles. I enjoy that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you're a freelancer, so you've published in, Decanter, Wine Enthusiast, et cetera. What do you think makes a great wine story? Let's say you're at TEXSOM. It's one thing to just say, obviously a topic of a seminar is what's posted and we get to sign up for a seminar that we're going to go to. But what really makes it a story to try to pitch?
Sure. So what makes a great wine story to me, I look at how I like to write about wine and how I view wine. What I've always said is that wine is a lens into greater culture. I've always focused my stories on what I really talk about. And I think that when we learn about wine or we hear something about wine that touches on something else that's happening in the broader world. So we're talking climate change, we're talking agriculture, we are talking economy, we're just talking general trends that are out there.
Right.
We're talking about youth culture. All of these things relate back to wine. And that's what I like to look at. And I think that when you take the lens of wine, it tells a much bigger story.
Yeah.
I personally don't focus on critiquing wine because that's not what I find useful. I don't think that that's particularly helpful to anybody, but I think the stories that are exciting and that I think touch more people relate to our broader world.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And I think too, being at something like this compared to, we actually often run into each other on different trips where we're visiting places, right? And actually digging into that culture. So I'll ask you this because you mentioned it. Like, one of the things that I find difficult if I'm looking for a story is actually when people start saying like, okay, well, we're such and such winery and we have such and such points from this critic and such number of points on this wine from this critic and such points from this critic. And I'm like, that's not going to beget a story from me.
Right.
Because great, that critics reviewed your wines and I'm all for like people making great wines
100%.
And getting reviewed on it. But what we do is different than that.
Yes.
And to be able to translate a critic's score into a story is very difficult.
Absolutely.
You got to give me more than that.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about that. Like, what are you looking for? Like, great. Great. You've got some great scores from a critic, but
Sure. Tell me about the innovation that you're doing in your winery. Tell me about how you are finding ways to fight climate change. Tell me about the next generation that's coming in and they're doing something really interesting with wine. Tell me about your region in general. What is happening here that people really need to know about? I think, put yourself in a global context as well, because I think that really helps tell a story.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about the idea of trends. So a lot of editors, the rule goes, if you have 3 examples of 3, it's a trend, and then you have a story.
Yeah.
So think about how things are put into a broader context and where that winery necessarily fits in.
I love that. And I'm constantly thinking of that rule of 3 at a minimum, because as you say, that's what editors want. That's what's, going to make a story. How about a profile? Because I often get asked like, okay, well, why don't we just do a profile on this person? Is it possible?
Yeah.
That's a harder sell, right, to an editor. So if you're going to pitch a profile, I mean, what does it have to entail? Yeah.
I mean, I think then we're just going to be starting to talk about straight media landscape right now. And I think a lot of the profiles go to people on staff. I think as a freelancer, that's an incredibly hard thing for me to land.
I agree.
So I think, profiles are something that can be done on staff, or you start looking at people who are doing something different. We talk about Substack a lot. We're doing Substack. If you find places and platforms where people have a lot more autonomy in terms of their content, that's an opportunity.
Yes. No, I think that's a great idea. We're both constantly meeting people where it's like they're extremely interesting. You connect with them because you've had, lunch on the patio at their estate and shared wines with them. And you're like, everyone we meet actually has an interesting story, but we can't always make a sold story out of it or a pitch story out of it, right? So I think you're right that having that opportunity, I know it used to be blogging and I never got into blogging. No judgment on it. I just never did. And now we've got this Substack thing, which I, for whatever reason, find invigorating.
100. Oh, that
you
is
know
the
what
word.
I mean?
That is the word. That is
because
literally
you can actually
the word.
write with your own voice. So we'll just make a little plug here. So Shana, you have a Substack that is.
I have a Substack. It's Shana Speaks Wine.
Shana Speaks Wine.
Yep.
Sign up for that. I'm actually launching one in October. It's direct to press.
Sign up for that.
Or don't, because the point is it actually is where we can write the things that, if we can't get it sold into a story or it doesn't have like the rule of 3 for a trend story, that's kind of where things are able to have, you get to do bonus stuff.
And to be honest, I'm starting to reserve my best ideas for my Substack now, because I think that that's where they really need to live. So it's not this idea of, I can't land it, I'm going to put it here. It is, I'm so excited about this idea and I want this to be told in the proper way. And so that's what I'm sort of focusing on. Yeah. And honestly, it's allowing us to play with different types of content. I'm playing around with video. I'm playing around with different styles of writing. And I get to write in a personal way, which is wild. Like I never get to put the word I in most of the articles. And now I get to write I. And it's triggering the brain to work in such a different and fun way.
Yeah. I think it's great. And actually I was doing a seminar on book publishing, how to get started in that. If you have a book idea, what do you do with it? Yep. And it's the same thing, right? Like you have to have a unique selling point. You have to have a way to stand out in order for a publisher to take that chance on you.
Right.
But for people who are just getting started, who've never even published an article before,
right.
I feel like if you've got a good premise, a good thematic idea, that a Substack could be an opportunity to start getting the feel for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I will say is it's ideal to have an editor. I actually hire a friend to edit pieces because I think you will always be a stronger writer if you have somebody to help you edit. And so if somebody is interested in starting something, I would just highly recommend that you hire an editor to help you shape your story, to help you form your ideas, to help put into a cohesive flow. I think we could all use it no matter what level of writer you're at. And so I would put that out as a piece of advice for anyone that's interested.
Even if it's like your partner or spouse, although like that could create tension in the household.
Yeah, I hire an outside friend who actually is an editor with other stuff for me.
I mean, Jim Clarke is an amazing writer.
Jim Clarke is an amazing writer.
Exactly.
100%.
So that's a really good point. I did mention that in the seminar yesterday, just kind of like the best piece of advice my professor in grad school ever gave me was there's no such thing as good writing. There's only such a thing as good rewriting. Yep. And that rewriting comes with someone else's eyes on it, helping shape what it is that you're trying to say. So I do believe you're 100% correct on that. All right. So we've got TEXSOM,
Yeah.
which is almost over, already kind of sad.
It goes so fast.
I know. Tell me about your connection with Italian wine. This is the Italian Wine Podcast after all.
This is.
Tell me about some of your experiences and what has inspired you to write about Italian wine.
So to be honest, I probably would not be in the wine industry if it wasn't for Italian wine.
Ah.
So here is the story. So the very first bottle of wine that I ever had, that was that light bulb wine. And we all have that. We all have that wine that sets us down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And for me, it was an Italian white wine. It was Clelia Romano's Fiano.
Really?
100%.
Fiano.
100%.
I love this. Okay. Where were you? Why? What was
I'd been in New York for maybe about a year. My mom came to visit and we went out to dinner and we were just having this really lovely dinner down in Soho and we ordered a bottle of wine. And there was just something about it that just made me stop. And it was so different from anything else I had ever consumed before. And, I'm coming off of college where it's cranberry vodkas, blah, blah, blah. But then you're in the city for a year, you're out drinking things.
Yeah.
But I had this and it was a light bulb moment. It was, I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, what is this alchemy that's happening on the table between the wine and the food and hanging out with my mom in a different way? And it was so perfect that the next day we actually went back to the restaurant so I could write down the name of the wine because I knew like where it was on the menu. I wasn't totally thinking about it, but I knew what it was and like where it was on the menu. So I went back the next day and wrote down the name of the wine. And it kind of just set me on this path. Literally, I would not be wine if it was not for an Italian white wine.
Have you ever visited the place?
No.
I mean, you kind of
totally should. I know.
I'll go with you.
Okay. That'd be perfect.
Well, but we've traveled together in Italy a few times, from Puglia to Piemonte to Tuscany, kind of
Sicily.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been all over.
We have. And I think that, on those experiences is where the life comes, in terms of just being able to understand the whys behind Italian wine and what is in the bottle. Yeah. You've been doing it for almost 10 years. I've been doing it a little bit longer, but I'm older than you. So what have you seen in terms of some evolution, some challenges that we're seeing in the wine media right now in terms of making it possible to do the job that we do today?
Oh, how much time you got?
Well, we got about 10 minutes.
Okay. Cool.
So go.
So I'm speaking to a very knowledgeable person, but the lay of the land right now in terms of media is really challenging. Everyone's consuming information very differently how they consumed it even 10 years ago. Print magazines are not quite what they used to be, and there's great indie publications coming out, but big, wide circulation magazines are not quite what they're doing. Online is also getting to be very traffic heavy, and you're focusing on just getting those clicks, getting those eyeballs on it. A lot of publications are laying off staff, so there's a lot more competition for freelance writing. There's also a lot less budget for freelance writing. So anything that there is, they're trying to stretch whatever means that they have. We're not going to talk about AI right now because there's different advantages, completely different. It's very nascent stages, and I think we're just going to keep seeing that evolve. Yeah. But I will say that I see opportunity, and I think that any good entrepreneur can look at this sort of situation and try to figure out opportunity is here. What is it exactly? And so I think it is things like Substack with more autonomy. I think about how people are consuming information, and they're not necessarily trusting publications as much anymore. People are getting news from individuals. And so it helps to build trust with your audience and start to build credentials for yourself as a writer, as an expert. And I think that with the rise of AI, people are looking for what they consider to be a trusted source. And that often means that they want to know the person that the information is coming from. I think that that's going to change a lot of how we consume information. Yeah. And so I think, again, that's opportunity. You and I have been at this for a while. We're very curious. We're hungry. We're knowledgeable. Yeah. And I think that presents a lot of opportunity for people like us, for freelancers.
I think so, too. I think, for a long time, it's been the mystique of social media, which, of course, is kind of like that, necessary evil that you need to be able to actually, even probably the past 2 to 3 years, I think that is also shifting in terms of being a content creator, which you and I are, right? Like, I wouldn't say I lean into social media very much. I do use it, but the content creation and being able to figure out a way to communicate. And I think that that's a really, really clear point that you're making, which is people trust voices. Yeah. And yes, I think brands exist. We've got some of the biggies out there that that for even us, it's like we get excited when we write a story for them. But the model is changed in terms of how they can even stay alive and make money,
Correct.
right? So as that evolves, we have to look at different ways to be able to tell stories. Because in all honesty, whether you are a freelancer writing for a magazine or for yourself on Substack, or you're a sommelier on the floor that's trying to sell a bottle of wine, it's the stories that actually get that across, right? And, I'm with you. Like, I think we're in a time of opportunity, and perhaps, and I don't say that as like, I'm not normally a glass is half full kind of person. I would definitely say I'm a pragmatist, and I think you are too. But at the same time, because we're curious, because we're hungry, and because we think out of the box, more than just, okay, well, this is all I do. I write stories. There are a lot of different ways to be able to communicate that.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of excited to see like how it will evolve.
Yeah. I think even to your point, like the idea of like content creators, how that's changed. The influencer world was always a weird kind of murky thing to get my head around.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, I felt that there was people out there, everyone's doing their thing, but there's an element to it that I think a lot of us weren't thinking about, is that I used to work, like my very first job, one of my very early jobs in New York was I was a media planner, which is the non-creative side of advertising.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just plugging in numbers. I say, hey, company, you want to put X in TV, X in magazines, blah, blah, blah. And the amount of money that they would put into that is really interesting. But they're like, but we're going to get the circulation and it's going to see all these things. What influencers were doing, I think, and still are, and everybody is doing this now, it's sort of like an ad that talks back to you. So you can engage with people so much more. And I think that there is a lot of value in that. I think that you get so much from these. You can comment on their post and they're going to comment back.
Right. The personality. I actually I had a chance to speak with Amanda McCrossan about that, who I think is an influencer that does a beautiful job of communicating to the audience. She knows her audience and she knows what they're looking for. She does do some sponsored content, and she's very clear about it when she does, which is very important. But at the same time, I love that she said, if someone's going to DM me a question, I pay attention very much to that, because that gives me an opportunity to go talk about that on another post at some point, or things like that. And I think that that's, whether you're doing influencer or Substack, et cetera, that is where you can strengthen your own voice, because you're getting feedback from people.
That's a good point.
I don't know if you ever feel this way, but I often, like when I write an article for a magazine and I send it, and then we've gone through the editing process and we've seen the final, and it's going to come out 3 months from now or something, right? Because it doesn't happen immediately. I mean, online writing is different, but print is very, it takes
it's
a
another
while.
Animal. Yeah.
You almost forgot that you wrote it, and then it like comes out. You're like, oh yeah. But in general, I feel like I not only have I probably forgotten about the story because I've moved on to the next thing, but I'm like, do people actually read it? I don't know. And then when someone one day comments like, hey, I love that story you did on such and such, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you.
People are reading this.
You actually read it.
What? You read it? It's incredible.
But you're not getting commentary on it, right? Unless you promote it on social media or something like that. Hey, I just wrote this, go give it a read, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you get some feedback there. But whereas I think being able to create something original, being able to engage in conversation with people, of course, there's what's the word? Danger of those people who want to be negative commenters, and you just have to choose to not engage.
Just don't read the comments.
Just don't read
the actual comments.
Don't read the comments.
Read the questions, not the comments.
Exactly. Well, before we go, I want to bring up one more thing. So one of the things that I love about TEXSOM is we do have once a year, they do an evening of, it's like a book sale, and it's all the different authors that come who are usually part of TEXSOM, but who have authored books in the wine industry.
Yep.
And you're one of those people. So I wanted to give an opportunity to kind of talk about the book that you have, which is, I'm going to say it wrong. So 150 vineyards you must visit.
You need to visit before you die.
Okay. No one's dying anytime soon right now.
It's a pretty dramatic title.
I know. It's a pretty, but it's a great book. So tell me about how you went about, I mean, we're talking, you had the world of vineyards to choose from.
Yep.
And you got to 150.
Yes.
Okay. So
sure.
How'd you go about it?
So I was contacted by a publisher, a Belgian publisher called Lanu, who publishes the book. And they commissioned me. They found my writing. They really liked me. They thought I was a great fit for it, which is very flattering.
Yeah.
So we had a nice short timeline to work on this. So the criteria for it, I started in a place where let's talk about the greatest vineyards in the world. We're going to talk about like DRC and blah, 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 blah. And then they came back and they said, well, but we'd also like it to feel have it be like very broad. Can we talk about maybe a tourism thing here and there? So like they have different criteria. And so from there, I took a step back and I began to think about this because really, one, what does make a great vineyard?
Yep.
Two, what sort of elements can excite people and get people there and interested in it? But I also began to take it as, what is the state of the wine world today? Because I began to do more research, because obviously I've been to a lot of places, I know a lot of places, but they wanted some surprise. And they also said, we're in Belgium, can you find something in our area too? Which I did. But it gets you thinking, I was finding vineyards in Thailand, I was finding vineyards in China.
Wow, I love that. Yeah.
And so you start to think the wine world is so much bigger than we can ever actually get our heads around.
Yeah.
And so I took the book in a different direction. So I had about 300 wineries, on this big old spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Narrowed it down because I began to take the book into the direction of, what do I want to talk about the wine world today?
Yeah.
I want to use this book as a way to talk about what our world is now and where it's going, because there is a lot of things that are still coming online. There are places that are beginning to build their industries. And I think that book, if I'm to do it again in 10 years, it's going to look completely different.
Yes.
I think that we're just getting this taste right now of what's about to come and what's about to happen. And it's so exciting.
Yeah. It's literally like we're in a precipice moment.
Yes, we really are.
Yeah. Well, you can get that book on Amazon.
You can get it at barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com. You can go onto lanew.com, and they will probably have it.
Excellent.
You can Google it. It's around. I found it in Powell's Books in Portland.
In Portland. I love it. Hey,
it's always fun when you can find a book and you're like,
I know.
My book is here.
Shana, thank you so much for joining us. And if people do want to find you, they can find you on Instagram at
Shana Speaks Wine.
And also on Substack at
Shana Speaks Wine.
And on your website,
Shana Speaks Wine.
So pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I look forward to joining you again someday in Italy sometime.
Thank you for having me.
Here's a Texas wine tidbit that's less about vineyards and more about Texans themselves. Texas is big, yes, but it's also wealthy, educated, and wine curious. With a GDP of about $2.7 trillion, Texas has one of the largest economies in the world, bigger than Australia's or Spain's. And with more than 30 million residents, it's the second most populous state in the U.S. The 5 major cities, Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and Fort Worth, represent more than 15 million people, many of whom are frequent travelers, highly educated, and eager to explore the world through food and wine. These cities are home to thriving culinary scenes, legendary steakhouses with deep cellar lists, Michelin-starred and James Beard award-winning restaurants, and sommeliers curating thoughtful programs that highlight everything from Burgundy to Barolo. Texans already spend billions annually on dining, luxury goods, and travel, and wine plays a key role in that lifestyle. Import data shows Texas is one of the fastest-growing states for fine wine sales, particularly at the premium and luxury tiers. Italian classics like Brunello, Barolo, Amarone, and Super Tuscans are staples in high-end restaurants across Houston and Dallas, while adventurous drinkers in Austin and San Antonio are snapping up wines from Sicily and Friuli. So when Italy looks beyond New York or California, it should remember, Texas isn't just a market of size, it's a market of taste. And Texans have both the appetite and the resources for great Italian wine. This series is proudly sponsored by the Texas Department of Agriculture's Uncorked Texas Wines program, which celebrates Texas wine culture by promoting local wineries and grape growers, both in-state and around the world, building a vibrant community around the Texas-made wine. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show wherever you get your podcasts. And don't miss our Texas wine tidbit in every episode, a fun little fact, insight, or story that highlights the people and places behind this exciting wine scene.